Don't make the same mistake I did and put off getting one of these. It doesn't really matter if you build or buy, but you've got to get one, and I'll tell you why. If enough dust gets on something and absorbs the moisture, it can cause rust on all sorts of surfaces. So I live near Atlanta, so humidity is a real consideration for me. And then there's the impact that dust can have on your finishes.
But the biggest difference that I noticed was how I felt when the fan was running. Before, particularly when sanding, I would wear a respirator and breathing wise, I'd feel fine. But I would end every sanding session with itchiness. And it wasn't just when I was working with cedar, which is a pretty popular material I've had a lot of projects with. It happened with anything. Also, the dust landing on everything, even though I use dust collection, would cause a lot of friction with the kids and the wife.
I built this based off of the recommendations from the 3D handyman. He says that this particular fan and filter combo should get at least 1,000 cubic feet per minute. So my total air volume is only about 3,000 cubic feet. So I'm hoping every hour I should be getting about 3,000 divided by 1,000. Yeah, so every 3 minutes, that means 20 times an hour, I should be getting a complete refresh through these filters. I think the OSHA requires 6 times an hour. So with that much higher filter rate, I'm trying to capture more dust that while it's still suspended in the air before it can land on any surfaces.
For my build, I selected this generic fan. It comes in so many names. This one's called Commercial Electric, but they all cost about $100. They're available from Home Depot and Amazon, and they all claim to move about 4,000 cubic feet of air a minute. One of the things that I did here was I use much larger filters. The larger the filter area, the less restriction the fan should have. I think for the 3D Handyman, he did his with 16 by 25 filters, which I think area-wise are half this. This is 20 inches by 30 inches. These are practically the biggest I could find that were also a common size. The back here is just one of those that has been cut off. I actually constructed it just using a sheet of 1/2 inch MDF and hot glue. I even hot glue welded all of the seams. And just for a belt and suspenders approach, I put tape over it. To be honest, I don't think you need to waste the tape. I should be getting at least 1,000 cubic feet per minute, or in my shop size, 20 air exchanges per hour. As dusty as my shop is, it is not nearly as dusty as it used to be. One of the issues also is that I have the filter set up on the suction side. So the fan itself is very, very clean. So I don't have to worry about any dust building up or damage to the motor. But the downside is, when I'm working, closer to the front of the fan, I can see the dust that I'm kicking up getting entrained in the airflow and being shot out the front. Now, when I work on the back, you can see the dust being pulled into this air filter here. Originally, the pleats were white, but the combination of walnut and cedar projects has left it looking very brown. I have the fan assembly suspended by some generic looking hooks and some paracord, trying to keep the vibrations down from going into my kid's bedroom, which is immediately over the garage. My ceilings are only 9 feet tall, which isn't very tall, all things considered, but it's a pain in the butt to reach. So I have up here one of those Wi-Fi enabled smart plugs, so I can turn it off and on using the app on my phone. I can't adjust the speeds because in their wisdom, whoever designed this thing put the fan control speeds on the back side. So in this setup, you're not going to have low, medium, and high. I just left it on high, even though it is a bit loud. It's not shop vac loud. It's definitely louder than a ceiling fan, but I'm wanting to get those maximum amount of air exchanges.
right, there we go. So the dust is actually rising up. The issue is when we get further over here, see, it's going right up in there. Sometimes some of the dust is getting entrained and shoots way out the front that way. I mean, look, the dust is not falling down, but while you can hear it in the other room, it's about as loud as a bathroom vent fan. Now we've got a clean filter. I want to see if there's any difference. Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, that's, I mean, for way downtown. A simple check for performance can simply be, can you get it to hold a nice shop towel up there? If it's enough to hold the shop towel, then you should be getting enough air movement to rapidly clean the air in the shop. All in all, it's about $100 for the fan and probably $120 for the filters. I had the MDF and the hot glue already, so that was the total cost for this project. I had thought about getting the Win air cleaner, a much smaller unit that hangs from the ceiling, but I think it was only offering about 200 cubic feet per minute, which it would have barely, I think, been able to do the 5 or 6 required by OSHA. And not like OSHA's a flawless organization, but usually their rules are written in blood. So they think it takes 5 or 6 air exchanges an hour to be effective. That's probably a minimum. And you can see in my shop, I'm not a huge fan of Win, but I do respect them. Not that they make great stuff, but that they make perfectly adequate stuff for the cost. So I had no issue with the Win brand, or I had no doubt that it would work like it was supposed to. But the big thing being, I wanted to get less dust in my lungs, on my skin, and settling on all the other surfaces that are not part of the shop. If I had to do it all over again, I would look at the more recent data from the 3D Handyman and put it so that the fan actually blew into the filter box. That way you won't have to worry about debris being entrained into the flow of the fan and being shot out across the shop. It's supposed to do a much better job reducing the amount of dust that makes it onto the surfaces in the shop. I mean, I noticed a huge reduction with it set up like this, so I can't imagine the other way. However, he says the best way now is to take the exhaust and send it to the other end of your shop and use a much lower density filter to act as a diffuser to force all air to go in a big loop through the filter right now, and that will reduce all of the entrainment issues that I'm seeing from mine. And he says that will take you from almost no dust down to no dust. So I might look at a modification in the future where I add a homemade duct, probably made out of whatever cheap material I can get, that extends out 6 or 7 feet and goes to a diffuser. Is $220 too much to spend to dramatically reduce the fatigue that you get from sanding or planing operations? I mean, that's up to you. But for me, it was definitely worth it, and I regret not doing this years earlier.